That's always the question I get, Frank, is,
Oh, sure.
how many times have you been fired? 11. 11 times I've been fired. But, from different parts of the country. Some stations I've been fired from twice. This whole angry mob came down to the radio station. And I had never seen so few teeth in a mob of people. I love Kansas City. And it's almost like you don't want to tell people about Kansas City. Now that you can work from anywhere, everybody's moving to Kansas City.
I know they are.
I've got buddies of mine in radio that are in L.A. and New York and everywhere. And they go, what is it about Kansas City? I go, I can't even explain it to you. It's just one of those things. You always have a guy.
There's Just Something About Kansas City is brought to you in part by the generosity of our friends at the Cockrell Family Foundation, the Bergman family, and the Sherman Family Foundation. Thank you.
Welcome once again to another episode of There's Just Something About Kansas City. Remember, listen, like, subscribe, and you can get us on YouTube. And what a great day to be on YouTube. This is actually start number 2 for this podcast, okay?
Oh, wow.
The one and only Randy Miller sitting right across from me.
Are all the buttons on? Are all the buttons on?
I'm sure. Your old buddy Ben Messner back there.
That's right.
All right.
Benny and I worked together at 810.
Yeah, thanks for wearing that.
At
That's great.
Hot Talk 1510. I guess that's still around. I don't know.
Yeah. I think 1510's doing something.
It may not be. It may be a planter by now. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
We're all planters by now.
Exactly.
I guarantee. But how are you, man? You did radio when it was fun and it was irreverent.
Yeah.
And you're doing so much now. You got Randy Miller Radio. You're still having a great time. Yeah. You've got also National Defense Network. We'll talk about that.
Yep.
Wrote a book. Okay.
Wrote a book.
Prizes, Pranks, and a Purse Lady.
Yep.
The Misadventures of the Randy Miller Morning Show. That was incredible when you had the morning show here in Kansas City.
Oh, my gosh.
Unbelievable.
The book talks about the many times I've been fired, because that's always the question I get, Frank, is,
oh, sure.
How many times have you been fired? 11. 11 times I've been fired. But, from different parts of the country. Some stations I've been fired from twice. They
were dumb enough to bring you back?
Yeah, how dumb is that? And ZZ99, and this is in the book, ZZ99, when I worked for ZZ99 a long time ago in Kansas City, they fired me, only time I've been fired by Western Union. I got a telegram. I kid you not. I got a telegram. We did a contest. It was April Fool's Day, and we said Bob Seger was coming to town. Oh. Well, Bob Seger was not coming to town. And we worked out a deal with Corky's Records. You remember Corky's Records?
I remember Corky's. Yeah.
So I worked out a deal with Corky, and I said, okay, we're gonna say that you can buy tickets at Corky's Records. And so people started lining up like at 6 a.m. Corky was all over it. He was like, man, this is going to be great. And so when the people got in, instead of tickets, they got a thing that says, a happy April Fool's Day from Randy Miller, and you get $1 off a Bob Seger album. And we thought, well, that's cool. That's funny. Well, all of a sudden, Corky knows nothing about this. When this angry mob shows up, he knows nothing about it. All of a sudden, he's like, I don't know what's happening. Randy Miller must have done it. So they came down, this whole angry mob came down to the radio station. And I had never seen so few teeth in a mob of people like Bob Seger fans. And, man, they wanted me. They wanted me bad. And I remember Todd Chase was the program director. He dives under a desk, and I'm just there. And so the police had to escort me home. And then the next day I got a Western Union telegram that said, you've been fired. So
that's one of many, many deals for the kid from Knoxville.
Right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, and the kid from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and the kid from Pittsburgh.
And I worked both places.
Your wife, or actually winning your wife, and we will talk about that as well. But you knew from a young age that this is what you wanted to do, wasn't it? Yeah. I said, one day I'll do the Frank Bowl podcast. And people laughed at me, Frank, and they said, it'll never happen. But here I am. My high school radio station. It was an actual radio station at my high school, Fulton High School in Knoxville. And I had, I was 14, really, when I made the decision. I just wanted to do that forever. Yeah.
I mean, some people, as you know, some people get to be 60 years old and they have no idea what they want to do. I've always wanted to know. I've always known what I wanted to do. And so that's where I got my training. I did all the stations around Knoxville, and then I left when I was, I think, 19 years old.
Right. And from there you went where, to Richmond? You went up to Richmond, Virginia from there, right?
So I got to tell you a story right before that. You worked with consultants.
Oh, God. Absolutely.
What are they good for? Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Say it again. A consultant, before I went to Richmond, got the bright idea that I should go to Shreveport, Louisiana.
Okay.
And they said, there's a morning show opening there. It's a 100,000 watt rock
non-directional.
station. Non-directional.
It goes to Bolivia, to Alberta.
Flamethrower. And they said, so they need a morning guy, and we're gonna fly you there, and you do the interview. And I said, okay. So I get there, and I did the interview, and it was fine. You know, I just decided I didn't want to take the job. I come back, and the consultant calls me. He goes, you turned down the job? And I said, yeah, I did. And they said, well, you were supposed to take the job. And I said, what? I mean,
Nobody told me that.
Yeah, is that my choice? And he said, yeah. He said, you gotta send us back your plane money, your airline money. We want that back.
No.
And of course that never happened. But
plus, you don't speak Cajun. You would have lasted a week
That's
in
true.
Shreveport.
That's probably true.
Nobody would have understood you.
That's true.
Because you were
Exactly.
you
Boy,
actually spoke English.
That is a different language, isn't it?
Oh,
I mean,
God, yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. I can remember a guy we used to work with because I worked at NBC when I worked for WDAF in the beginning before they went to Fox. Yeah. And we used to exchange stuff with all of our other NBC affiliates when it came to the Chiefs because we're coming to town. And all that stuff. The guy from New Orleans, he'd send something up there and no idea what the guy said. Zero. None. And he was on the air there for 45 years.
Right.
They loved him because he was one of them. So.
But then I did go to Richmond. I did the morning show there in Richmond. That was my first morning show in Richmond, and the guy, it was so bizarre. I went there, and I think I was 19. And just started doing my shtick, that's kind of where I started kind of learning the craft,
Yeah, right. What you wanted to do too, most of the time it was top 40 DJs like Casey Kasem, Wolfman Jack, all these people that you heard about. But they're top 40 DJs, so they're rattling something real cute in between songs.
Right.
They're going song to song to song,
commercial
song to song.
I hated songs.
Right? Yeah,
I hated songs.
You hated music.
I hated music. I mean, I wanted to tell my stories and do my bits. And that was the problem in Richmond because the guy said, you need to play more music on your morning show. And I said, well, I'll try to work in a couple of, whatever. And
how about 2 an hour?
2 an hour. Right. I mean, it got down to that, Can you do, I mean, at first it was like, can you do 12 songs an hour? And I go, why do you need me? I mean, if you got a jukebox, you don't need me, which has been my whole career of saying that. But so I got nominated for an award while I was there. They were doing Drake Chenault. Remember them? Drake Chenault. It was a big media company.
Okay, I do not.
And they were doing a talent search, for the top 5 personalities in the country. I didn't even know I was being considered for that. So I won the award, and they put you on an album then of your air check. They put the air check on an album. They distributed around the country. It was me, Howard Stern, Jonathan Brandmeier from Chicago, and then 2 guys that I don't remember. But I win the award like on a Friday, and then the guy fired me on a Monday.
You know why?
I wasn't playing enough music.
No. They had to give you a raise.
Yeah, probably.
That was the other
Well,
part.
That's how I got to Pittsburgh, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how I got to Pittsburgh.
Which ended up being very good for you.
It was great.
At that point. My old hometown.
Yeah.
But
by the way, I love Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I just love it.
Oh, Pittsburgh's great.
And you still got some downtown.
I love downtown, little sandwich.
Yeah, right.
You want Permane Brothers? Hey, what yin's doing today?
What you guys doing?
Yeah, what yin's doing?
When I first met Renee and started dating her in Pittsburgh, it was so funny. She told me she had to red up her room.
That's right.
And I go, you got to paint it? And she goes, no, I got to red it up. And I go, what does that mean? She goes, I got to clean it up. And I go, why don't you speak English? I mean,
hey, watch it.
I know.
Okay.
No, I love it. Everybody. The thing I loved about Pittsburgh was everybody you met had a story.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you meet people. You ask them a question. Sometimes they go, "Yeah, no, not in Pittsburgh, man." You say
you'll hear their whole life story.
Yeah. How you doing? Oh man, sit down. Sit on.
Gonna get you an Iron City.
Iron City. Icy Light. I was there when Icy Light came on board, and everybody hated Icy Light. They thought that was so, like, why would you put light in a beer like that?
Yeah, right.
You got Iron City.
Okay, I'll tell you a story about Iron City beer. My mother was so convinced that they made Iron City beer out of river water that when they
I've heard that.
When they had guests at the house.
Yeah.
My mother would put the beer in glasses, but she'd put a strainer on top of the glass and pour the beer through a strainer because she
That's
swore to
funny.
God there was slag
That's
from
funny.
the steel mills that was sitting at the bottom of those beer bottles.
And if you knew something in Pittsburgh, that stayed with you forever. I mean, that's the way it was. You know, but that was that's a great town. I was there for 3 years.
Yeah, and before we talk about meeting Renee, your style. Did you pattern after everybody? Or this was just you? Because I know Howard Stern was starting to make headway during the same time you were.
Right.
Okay, and then became the golden age of that type of radio. But your style, instead of being the DJ like Wolfman, we talked about that, and Casey Kasem, where'd that come from?
Well, and it's funny, Frank, because when I was growing up in Knoxville, there was some. That's really when top 40 stations were starting. You know, on the AM. And there was a guy named Frank Irwin that was a midday guy on a station called 15Q. And for some reason, that was another reason I got into radio, because this guy, he was a DJ, right? He would talk up the records, but he was great. He was phenomenal. Right. And I used to listen to him talk up the intros to these songs and think, man, I'd love to do that. And that's what I got into radio really to do, was to do that kind of thing. Yeah. And so then when I started doing the morning show, it was such a freedom, because I could kind of do whatever I wanted to do. And so I was just making it up. I was just making it up as I went. But it gave me, especially when I got to Kansas City, and Pittsburgh a little bit too, it really gave me the freedom to do whatever.
Yeah, right.
You know, and so I would just try to fill those 4 hours, which sounds insane now to come up with 4 hours of material every day, but I just loved it. I loved writing. I loved any kind of comedy thing.
You loved the process.
I did. I loved the process, almost to the point where, and I can remember staying up all night and writing out bits and recording stuff, and that was the fun for me. You know, I mean, and then executing it on the air was a different deal, which I did enjoy, just to see what people thought of it. You know, the more outrageous, the better, and because people, we always treated my morning show like an inside club. So the people that got it really got it, but the people that didn't get it, we made fun of, and
that was great for the people who got it.
Right. Yeah.
It was a built-in audience.
Yeah, it was just like an inside club, you know, for me. So that was a lot of fun.
So you get fired from Richmond, and you go to Pittsburgh.
No, well, I get fired from Richmond. I go back to Knoxville.
Oh, okay.
So I'm back to Knoxville. I don't have a job. I can't get a job. I can't buy a job. I ended up doing helicopter traffic for a station there, honestly. And I'm thinking, well, that was my shot at radio. I'll do something else. And then I get this crazy call from Pittsburgh, which was like the number, at the time, like the number 11, 12 market in the country.
Big market, yeah.
And I'm thinking, there's no way I'm going to get this morning show. I mean, I'm replacing a guy named Jay Stone, who had the voice of God. And I'm thinking, there's no way. You got to join the union. You got to do this.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, big union.
Yeah. So I go up there for the interview. A guy named Bobby Christian picks me up at the airport. It's blinding snowstorm. Bobby's smoking a joint. And this was my introduction to big time radio. And I'm asking him, he's driving this, you know, and I go, you want me to drive? And he goes, no, I'm fine.
He's on the parkway.
Yeah. So anyway, we do the interview. I've still got kind of a Southern accent, and I'm thinking, this is not going on. And for some reason, they hired me.
Yeah.
So I go
What
to...
station was that in Pittsburgh?
96KX. It was WHTX, but you'll know it as WTAE FM.
TAE, yes.
TAE FM. And we worked in the same building.
As TV station.
TV station.
TV too.
And WTAE AM. So these were giants, man. I mean, these were like... You know, Joe DiNardo and Myron Cope. I mean, you know, and I'm walking around the hallways just going, why am I here? This is crazy. But it was such a great learning process for me. You know, we had our general manager was a guy named Ted Atkins. They called him Captain Showbiz. And O'Brien and Gary, you remember those guys?
I do not.
O'Brien and Gary were a great morning show right across the hall. Yeah. And so I got to learn a lot from those guys, too. That was fun.
And then talk about this contest where you end up winning a watch. Okay,
people never believe this, but I always tell people I won my wife in a radio contest. Because, I get up there, I'm 21 at the time, and I just want to meet girls. That's all I want to do.
Sure.
And so I come up with this contest called Birthday Fantasy Contest. And I say, you send me your picture, you tell me what your birthday fantasy is, and if you win, we'll grant that birthday fantasy. I got one entry. And it didn't have a picture. It was from this girl named Renee Beldam, who lived in Lower Borough, Pennsylvania. And she said her birthday fantasy was to have dinner with me. And I've got, we got a winner. We got a winner right now.
We went through all of these contests.
Oh yeah. We finally picked the winner. And this was back before the days of pre-recording. She worked at a law office in New Kensington. So I called her law office on the air, and she answered the phone. I said, Renee Beldam, this is she. And I said, this is Randy Miller. And she goes, who? And I go, it's Randy Miller, 96KX. We got your letter for your birthday fantasy. And she goes, I didn't send you a letter. And in the background, you hear just her coworker just howling. She had sent in the letter. And so I go, well, we've already got the dinner, so you at least have to take the dinner. And she said, okay. She said, as long as we meet in a public place in case you're a creep and my coworker comes with me. And I said, okay. So that's what we did. Met at the Monroeville Mall.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And got a buddy of mine named Suitcase Simpson, another DJ, to come with me for Amy. And we've been married now 41 years.
That is.
Isn't that crazy?
And she didn't even
no,
apply.
she had no part in it. It was more of a kidnapping, I think, because right after that we went to Charlotte, North Carolina, and she had never been outside of Lower Borough, I don't think.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Maybe
Stay
Oakmont.
loyal to Pittsburgh. Yeah, maybe Oakmont. That's about right. So then you leave Pittsburgh. Did you get fired?
No, actually, I did not get fired. That was one of the few times. There was a job opening in Charlotte, North Carolina. A guy named Murphy in the Morning was leaving. He'd been there a long time. Was making $100,000 a year.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
This year?
Oh, this is 81,
Oh
80,
my gosh,
82.
that's like $500,000.
Yeah, it is. Huge. He was going to Chicago, so they had this nationwide search for his replacement.
Yeah, right.
So I sent my air check in, and they contacted me. And I had just coming up on my contract in Pittsburgh, and they had offered me money to stay, not that kind of money. So they hired me, and I told them when I negotiated the contract, I said, so I get the $100,000, and they go, no, you don't get $100,000. He was making $100,000. And so they hired me for $50,000, and at the time though it was like I think I was making in Pittsburgh I might have been making
25,
maybe 30, maybe.
Yeah.
So I told Renee, I said, pack your bags. We're going to start this journey.
Moving on up.
Yeah, that's right. And then of course we moved to Charlotte, and I got fired a year later.
Oh, really?
From there, yeah.
Yeah, real quick, just because you're not playing music.
Well, that was, some of it.
And a few altercations with the management and the FCC and a few other people, right?
That's right, yeah.
No problem.
Yeah. I had that same talk that, we're going to go in a different direction. Randy, we're going to head in a different direction now. And that's not part of your direction.
Okay, so Charlotte fires you, and then I think you end up in KC now, right?
So it was so weird. So a guy that I had worked with in Pittsburgh, named Frank Hannell, he had come to Pittsburgh to be the program, or come to Kansas City to be the program director of 106.5 KCI. Mm-hmm. And so he called me, and after I got fired, he said, you want to come to Kansas City? I go, what is Kansas City? What is this Kansas City you speak of? And so I said, sure. So he brought me in for even less money. And at the time, 106.5 KCI, You could barely hear it. You had to drive in a parking lot to hear it. I mean, it had no signal. But it turned out to be great for me because since you couldn't really, it didn't have a great signal.
Right.
They basically said, you do whatever you want to attract attention. Yeah. So that's when I learned my show. That's when I started my show.
Yeah.
Because I did get to do, anything I wanted. And the out of town owners, which is another
perfect.
Great,
Yeah,
perfect.
Right.
And so we started doing, we did everything from
you did naked pizza.
we
right?
we did naked pizza. We had a guy named Bill Rush, who's still a great friend of mine. Bill would come in as Dr. Dildoni, and he would fart into the microphone, and you'd have to call up and guess what he had for dinner the night before. I mean, just crazy, just nutty stuff because, we had no ratings.
Sure.
So the station kind of got to be known then, I mean, he was this crazy guy who's doing all this crazy stuff.
Who was this Randy Miller?
Yeah, and I thought I was secure there for a long time, but we used to do a regular skit called the Mission Hillbillies, and so wheel doggy, Uncle Jed, and so we had this stupid little joke on there one time, where Jethro comes in, Uncle Jed, he just got married, and he goes, "Hey, Uncle Jed, what should I do on my wedding night?" And Uncle Jed goes, "Well, doggy boy, you just take the biggest thing you got and put it where she pees." It's just a stupid little joke. And then Jethro comes back the next day and says, "Well, Uncle Jed, I did what you said, but didn't make her happy." And he said, "What are you talking about?" And Jethro goes, "I took my shoe and threw it in the toilet." I mean, it was just a stupid little joke. So I would have been fine with that, right? If that had been the end of it. So a listener calls up named Sharon Jenkins, and she's hot. She's mad. She hated the joke, didn't think I was allowed to, demands to be fired immediately. So somebody told me, the producer says, she's on the phone, and she's demanding to talk to the general manager. So I disguise my voice and come on, and she's on the air with me, and I go, "Yes, may I help you, Miss Jenkins?" And she goes, "Randy Miller, he told this nasty joke, and I want him fired." And I said, "Well, we didn't. I don't listen to his show, so you'll have to explain the joke to me." She goes, "Well, I'm not going to tell the joke. No, I need to hear the joke to be." So she tells the joke on the air without her knowing it, and so then she hangs up, and she calls back because a friend of hers had said, "Hey, we heard you tell this nasty joke on the Randy Miller show," and so. Anyway, it ends up she wins, I lost, and she got $30,000 from an attorney, and I get
Your
fired.
ratings went through the roof.
Oh yeah, front page in the Kansas City Star,
Oh,
all the
perfect.
news stations.
Perfect.
Oh, it was great. It was great for my career because then I got hired at ZZ99 immediately for twice the money.
Oh, God.
That's the deal.
Yeah.
That's why I always tell people. I said, it doesn't matter if you're fired, but get fired for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Get fired for something outrageous.
Yeah, don't be lazy, being lazy.
Right. Yeah.
Hiding during the workday. Or
You're
whatever
right,
it is,
right, yeah.
Do something that makes it memorable to get fired.
Right.
Make it worth it.
Yeah, exactly. If you're going to get fired, do it in a big way.
It's like football. If you're going to get a penalty, go for it.
Exactly, yeah.
You might as well wreck
Yeah,
somebody.
right.
Yeah, and Randy, like I said, has written a book. He's in the process of writing another one. Prizes, Pranks, and the Purse Lady, Misadventures Randy Miller Morning Show. And your career in Kansas City, I mean, you took off at that point here.
Yeah, it was that's really when we started doing a lot of things that got noticed, and again, you think you're at a station like ZZ99. ZZ99 was a fairly new station, top 40. Husband and wife owner, the Wadlingers owned it. And again, they always tell you, they always told me, just do whatever you did over there that you got fired for, do that here.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. So.
Boy, that's nice.
Yeah. Well, it's nice until it's not.
Yeah, well, until they finally really hear from the SEC.
Yeah, right.
Now it's $1 million.
Yeah, right.
$20,000.
Yeah, but it was great, and that's really when I fell in love with Kansas City.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm sure you had the same experience.
Yeah.
Just and just like the title of your podcast. I mean, that is so true. I've got buddies of mine in radio that are in L.A. and New York and everywhere. And they go, "What is it about Kansas City?" I go, "I can't even explain it to you. It's just one of those things. You always have a guy. Somebody says, "Hey, my plumber, I got a guy."
Yeah, exactly.
You always got it. And it's just that it's easy to live here, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. It's wonderful to live here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. So you spent how many years in radio here? 17? Was it 17? It was a bunch. You were here for a long time, right?
Yeah, I've been in radio. This is my 50th year in radio. Oh, wow. My 50th year. So I just turned 65 last year, and I started when I was 15.
15 in high school.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And I think people that don't understand the business, that what Randy went through, of course, he self-imploded a few times to get fired. Right. But the other time, just in this business, you're hired. It's almost like being a football coach. You're hired to be fired.
Right.
I mean, it's going to happen to you. There's somebody new's going to come along, and your ratings are going to go down a little bit, and they're going to jump the gun a little bit too soon and pull the trigger on you.
And the other thing, Frank, that you know too, is that most people, wherever they start in radio, that's where they finish in radio.
Yeah.
I mean, they're hometown-wise or just town-wise. And a lot of guys aren't married to a girl that likes to travel. You got to have that too.
Yeah.
But a lot of guys just like to stay. I've got a great buddy of mine that I learned radio in high school with, who's still doing radio in Knoxville, Tennessee, which is great. I just wanted it a little more than that, So you
had some wanderlust in you.
I did.
I think when you get in this business, you better have a little bit of it, because you're going to end up in places. I ended up in Grand Coulee, Washington was my first job. I try to find it on the map. Grand Coulee, Washington. My next was Chelan, Washington, which was right down the street. And it's like, I went, why? How did I? What the hell was I thinking?
Yeah. But you do that stuff. I mean, I probably should have taken the Shreveport job. That could have been my first thing.
Maybe, yeah.
But
it all ended up. Great.
Yeah.
So where'd you come up with a bunch of skits? I know you did the naked pizza thing, the belly flops. You love April Fool's Day.
Oh man,
all-time favorite day of the year.
When I found out that you could do anything on April Fool's Day, that was my license to steal. Right. And I was like, oh man, that's my favorite holiday now. And so we'd always do all that kind of stuff. There's my favorite April Fool's stunt is one that we did in Kansas City, and I think, Frank, my problem was I was not a good communicator to the management. I was not a good communicator.
Really?
Yes.
I would have never guessed that.
I think that was my big mistake. Didn't really communicate to the management. But we had this elaborate plan that we're going to do the free money parade. And so about 2 days before this announcement, I had my whole team that worked with me were out getting these little plastic tubes and putting different denominations of money in them. So not a lot of 50s, but ones, fives, tens, few 20s. Anyway, we got a bunch of these, and the plan was to go out on Main Street at 12 noon that day and have a free money parade. We're just going to throw out money, and if you show up, you can have some. And so I announced it at about 6:30 that morning. And immediately I got a call from the general manager that said, "You're not really going to do that." And I said, "Oh, yeah. And he goes, "Well, you can't have a parade without a permit." And I said, "With 2 vehicles, you can." I said, "I researched it." I said, "So we're going to have the station van and the station mobile studio." So we get down there at about 11:30. Roughly 12,000 people are there. Roughly 12,000 people. And we're throwing money out. And, we just hey, it's great. Everybody's loving it. The TV cameras are, it's just a big publicity deal. And so then we run out of money, and we don't run out of crowd.
The 2 vans drive away.
We tried. They were in front of us, beside us. They start rocking the mobile studio, and the cops show up, and it was a free money parade because there was one person where they fell and got an injury to their ankle, and they won some money. Yeah,
there's a lot of free money there.
Yeah,
there's a lot of.
That first time I've seen brown without croupping. I mean, everybody showed up. Mike's got this. I got it. I understand.
Jungle law.
Exactly. Hey, you don't remember the first time we met?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No.
All right, so I was in Shawnee. We were living in Shawnee. Just got fired in Cincinnati. Came back here to work for again when it was country. So I'd worked for them when they were top 40, and now I'm coming back to launch this country station, which everybody hated. In the beginning, hated the format. But that's the other reason I love Kansas City, because every time I came back here, man, I got not just a warm welcome. I mean, it was just like, a hero's welcome.
Coming home.
Yeah. And it was so nice to get, by that time, we had so many Kansas City friends, and it was just great. And we just kind of decided that's where we want to stay, So we moved to Shawnee, and we were doing a contest called Breakfast for the Bozos. And in this contest, if you made us breakfast, we'd do the show from your house, because that's what everybody wants, So they want you to get there with a full crew at 3 a.m. and ruin their day. So a guy named Craig Grotius from Overland Park sent me. He applied to be one of the families, and I said, sure, we'll come out there. Well, unbeknownst to me, you lived in that same neighborhood.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You showed up for that thing.
Yes, I remember.
And do you remember what you brought?
I do not remember.
You had a purple dinosaur, because I had been making fun of Barney the dinosaur.
Barney, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I got in so much trouble for that on Channel 4. Go ahead, continue on.
You got in trouble for that channel?
Go ahead.
Okay.
No. I'll
All right.
with the Barney. Go
Okay,
ahead.
all right.
Yeah.
So you show up. Craig, he's a painter. He's an incredible painter, but he's also one of these frustrated comedians. He's a funny guy, and so he had golf trivia for us. It was an excellent breakfast. Craig and I have been friends now for 40 years, 35, 40 years. And but you lived in the same neighborhood, so it was so cool for you to come over and get to meet you and everything.
Yeah.
But that was.
And then you did move to Overland Park, and that's when I came to your house a couple times.
We moved 3 years later to right in front of you,
Yeah,
or
right there.
beside you. Yeah,
You're right there,
yeah. And we had horses. We've always had horses, and so we always had to. We were not allowed to live near people, and so that was
killing the ozone.
That was
no, that's cows.
Horses kill a lot of things.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
You can either have horses or money, Frank. That's
Yeah,
what I tell people.
I know.
Anyway, we moved out there and spent quite a few, maybe 13 years out there.
Yeah, you were there for a long time.
Yeah, that was a great place.
Yeah, it was great. And so you really fell on some hard times here, and this is some serious business in your career.
Yeah.
After this,
Yeah.
just talking about horses, and they almost did kill you, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. I mean, this was near the end of my career, and I had never wondered whether I was going to have a job. I mean, people. Obviously, you stress out when you get fired. You're always wondering you ever going to get hired again. I never had that problem. I mean, I get fired. I get hired within a month.
Sure.
So I kind of looked at it as just a nice vacation, for a while, and that happened until it didn't. And so, especially once you commit to an area like we committed to Kansas City, you think, okay, I'm going to stay here. And Q104 at the time, I'd worked for them for quite a while, making some really good money. And they were owned by CBS at the time, and we just kind of got sideways. It was kind of a mutual thing where I begged them at one time to let me out of my contract. I mean, I said, I'm miserable. You don't want, and they always say, we don't want anybody working here that don't want to work here. Yeah, you do.
Until they do.
Yeah, until they do. So I get fired. I got a pretty good severance, but then that runs out, and in the meantime we're thinking, hey, I don't have a job. Let's buy an enormous horse ranch somewhere, and of course my wife's like, that's a great idea. So we bought this place in Spring Hill.
Yeah.
40 acres, had a indoor arena, had an apartment for. I don't know, the slave you keep. I don't even. We never. But anyway, it was great. And then 2008 hit. So this was like 2006 that we moved out there. So the recession hits, and man, it hit us hard. And all of a sudden, I always tell people I'm a cobbler. We cobble jobs together and try to do what you can. But if the one thing that you do well, you can't find a job for, what do you do? Yeah. So we had they foreclosed on the house. We had to move to a cabin in Bucyrus. Thank the Lord, we were able to move to a cabin in Bucyrus that we rented, and that was just as a weird happenstance thing. But it turned out it was this really nice cabin. What's the place in Lake of the Ozarks where you stay in those beautiful cabins down there?
Oh, Tantera. Not Tantera.
It's a Johnny Morris deal, but
yeah. Okay, you mean the top of the rock?
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
down in Branson.
Yeah, right.
The top of the rock.
Right.
Yeah, okay, exactly.
The same guy that built those cabins built this cabin, and it was owned by this guy that's like a millionaire around Kansas City. And he said, and my wife's a horse trainer, and he said, tell you what, if your wife can train my horses, I'll rent this place to you. Okay, great. We've got nothing else, so it sounds great.
Please.
Yeah. So we stayed. We moved in there for, we were there for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
5 years, and turned out to be such a blessing, honestly, because I started a small ad agency. I mean, and I don't think. Okay, this may be an exclusive for you.
I'm ready.
All right. At the time, do you remember magazines that were at convenience stores?
Yes.
Called the Busted newspaper?
Right, they're free.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I called the guy that owned Busted newspaper, and I said, can I have this territory? I didn't know anything about any of that. And he goes, sure. And so my wife and I, for 2 or 3 years, every week would deliver Busted newspapers to convenience stores. And I got to tell you something. When you've been on the top of the rock and you walk into a convenience store and somebody goes, are you Randy Miller? And my daughter Maddie said it best when she was so little. We were somewhere after I'd been fired, and somebody says, are you Randy Miller? And my daughter goes, he used to be. And I figured,
here we go.
Oh, boy,
Oh, my God.
right, right.
Yeah, dad girl. And, oh, my gosh.
Right. So we finally get out of the cabin, moved to a beautiful place in Lone Jack. The ad agency's doing good. I start the National Defense Radio Show.
Yeah.
With the VFW, and really was so happy to kind of make my own way then.
Yeah, sure.
Didn't have anybody that could fire me.
You were rock bottom.
Nothing.
You were down to before when you were 15.
Oh, absolutely,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
You were.
I'm selling Busted newspapers.
That's right, and you've got a family.
Yeah, right. And at that time, our older daughter Chelsea had moved out to Chicago for college. So it was me and Renee and 2 dogs and 2 horses and Maddie in a cabin.
You still have the horses?
Yeah.
What are you doing with the horses still?
Tell me about it, Frank. There have been suspicious fires around my area, but not suspicious enough. No, but it's and we've always loved having the horses, but yeah, that's another mouth to feed, right?
Yeah. 2.
2. Yeah, exactly. Right.
A lot of hay and a lot of feed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they just don't eat the hay. But yeah, you did a lot of stuff too. You were KCTV traffic. You had to
all right. Yeah, let me. Okay,
let's do that too.
Let's talk about that here, Mr. TV. So I used to be so jealous of you TV guys. I mean, even when I was at the peak of my radio career, I'm thinking, these guys have it made, man. They get on there, they're making probably twice as much as I am. And then I go to work for Channel 5, for KCTV 5, and I realize that's a bunch of
I know.
That's not true.
That's not true.
And the first time I was doing traffic on the morning show. So I'm getting up earlier. I got to put makeup on. I got to wear a suit, and I'm thinking, but I had nothing, this is it.
Sure.
So I'm in there doing the thing, and then eventually the news director said, I mean, you can have some fun with some stuff. I said, okay. And he's like, but now, and it just, for a guy that's always been able to talk as long as I possibly can on my own, for them to go, you got 2 minutes, or you got 2.5. I'm like, what are you doing 2 minutes? So, but I started doing some man on the street stuff, which I really enjoyed. And I'd always done that throughout my radio career. I came up with this bit one day, again, without mentioning it to the news director. And Carolyn Long was, Carolyn was on the show, and Chris Pisano. And I'm doing a thing called What's in Randy's Pants. So what we do is I'll take...
On television.
On television. So I take an item, and hide it in my pocket. And I went to a bus station in downtown Kansas City, and I just, with a camera guy, I would walk up, and I go, hey, if you can guess what's in my pants, I'll give you $50. And I just remember the very first guy I did that to, he goes, can I touch it? And I go, you can't touch it. And so that airs, and the news director comes to find me, and he goes, what do you think you're doing? And I go, I'm just doing a little man on the street stuff. He goes, could you have at least called it what's in Randy's pocket? And I go, well, you won't understand. It takes away the subtlety of, but that was, it was fun. It was fun. Man, that was work.
Yeah.
How did you get in trouble at Channel 4?
Here's the deal. You were talking about Barney, right?
Yeah.
And I glossed over the story. I didn't want to interrupt your train of thought there for a while. So Barney is, they had to.
I love you.
You love me.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
I hate that song.
Yeah, it was a cult. It was a cult.
Exactly. So there's an hour-long show on CBS, and it's draft day for the Kansas City Chiefs,
Okay, right.
Okay. So they're drafting, and they're picked, whatever it was. It's the first round of the draft, and we're sitting there and we're watching the draft. Barney's on station, not on. He's actually on our station. Okay, so he's on our station. He's got this hour-long special, and they're building up, and they're half hour, and they're doing Barney, and Barney's going to do at the end. Oh my God, what's going to happen to Barney? We have a special bulletin now from Channel 4 News. We started to break into the programming, but here we go. The Chiefs have taken running back Greg Hill with their first pick in the NFL draft. We'll be back. Well, Marty Schott and I were talking about boom, 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 and we'll see you later. Closing credits on Barney. Then they come back out to the program, and it's closing credits on Barney.
Oh, no.
We never find out what Barney was doing.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
But now, why did you get in trouble for that?
Well, because
you were the guy.
Well, I made the decision to break into the program.
Okay, all right.
So Barney, I don't care about Barney. Jeez.
Right.
Barney.
Oh, that's funny.
Mothers calling, kids crying.
Right.
Sure. I was
I
was surprised I didn't get fired.
Yeah.
On that one, but I survived that.
That's
my Barney story.
That's kind of like we did the Kansas City pet tax one year for April Fools. Had a guy come on that said we're now going to start taxing your pets based on their weight, and a guy, and we would go all through this thing, and you got to have bring your pet to City Hall to get it weighed, and and a guy
bring it to City Hall.
A guy calls up and he goes, "Hey man, I got a 120-pound mastiff." He said, "I got to shoot him," and I go, "No," I said, "Let me talk to you off the air." And that's when, remember, Catherine Shields at the time was like the Jackson County executive. She put out a citywide press release that said, "Do not bring your pets to the steps of City Hall." Oh, that was so good.
My sides hurt. I'm done.
I tell you about Claire McCaskill, first time I met Claire McCaskill?
No.
All right, so Claire McCaskill was the Jackson County prosecutor at the time. Mm-hmm. And her husband, this is right after the boats have come to town.
Yes.
And he was on top of the Argosy smoking a joint. And they caught him. Now, how embarrassing is that? You're the Jackson County prosecutor.
And your husband's breaking the law.
Breaking the law. Yeah. And so we did a parody. Love doing parody songs. "Smoke on the Water," and so somebody comes in, a producer, and says, "Hey, Claire McCaskill's on the phone for you." And I go, "I don't want to talk to Claire. Why do I want to talk to Claire McCaskill?" So we bring her on, and turned out she had a great sense of humor. Has a great sense of humor. And thought it was hysterical. And then she divorced him 2 months later.
It wasn't long after that.
Yeah. But, that was...
I guess he was sort of out of control.
Yeah.
That was absolutely perfect. Yeah.
That was... so Jackson County prosecutors have known a lot of me throughout the years. Bob Beard, at one time, this is when we did the orange jumpsuit deal. We handcuffed... two guys together wearing orange jumpsuits at about 6:30 in the morning, and sent them down to a state line. And all they were supposed to do was, number one, they were supposed to stay on the Missouri side. No, they went through to Hallbrook, and just all they had to do is knock on doors and very politely say, "May we borrow a hacksaw?" That's all they had to do, and that's all they did. But apparently, there's a lot of jumpy people in Holbrook.
Well, one side state line is Missouri.
Yeah.
The other side state line is Kansas.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Sense of humors are different.
Right. Exactly. But that was when, they wanted to make an example on that. And I can remember Bob Beard calling me in. And I'm sweating it a little bit at that point,
Absolutely.
Because I don't know what the law. I don't know anything about law, and so except how to break it. And so he comes in and he wants to go. We're going to make it example. This can't continue. And I said, what if I do some free commercials for the police department? And he goes, okay, that's fine. Oh, that's
sure.
it? Okay.
So, well, I'm doing some PSAs here. That's
right.
It.
Yeah.
I'm good to go?
That's good. Yeah, right.
Okay.
Right.
Can I get that in writing?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Oh, my gosh.
Okay, then you're out at here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're doing the ad agency thing.
Right.
And tell me a story about how you spawned the National Defense Network. And folks, if you have not listened to Randy on the National Defense Network, he has had everybody who is anybody, from Donny Osmond to George Bush, Mark Wahlberg to Eric Stonestreet, Keanu Reeves to Kenny Loggins. You have had everybody who is anybody.
Yep.
But the way you spawned this was just incredible. You just walked into a VFW? Is that what you did?
Yeah. And Tom Hanks has been on with us 4 times.
Yes. Oh,
he's Bradley Cooper. So many. Yeah, if you go to nationaldefensenetwork.com, you can hear all the episodes. But walked in. So at the time, as part of the ad agency, I was creating weekend shows for companies. Okay, so the only thing I could do is radio. That's all I knew. So I'd create these weekend shows. I'd buy an hour of time on KCMO AM or whatever. And then I would get these companies to pay me to co-host the show with them once a week. So we'd be on a weekend. Nobody would hear it. I didn't care. But they would come on. Then they could have the segment,
Yeah.
And so we did that for a while. And I thought, somebody told me about the VFW National Headquarters. I didn't know anything about veterans. Mm-hmm. I didn't know any veterans. I mean, honestly, nobody in my family that I know of was a veteran. And so I started doing a little research on the VFW, and I thought, they do some great work, do some good work. So I called the communications director at the time, guy by the name of Jerry Newberry. And, I mean, a lot of people still don't know the VFW National Headquarters is here.
It's right here in Kansas City.
Mm-hmm. Even with the big VFW sign, they don't, So I went down there and talked to Jerry, and I said, you guys need to do a nationally syndicated radio show. And he said, why is that? And I said, because everybody thinks you're a bunch of drunks that play bingo. And I said, I know better than that. And he kind of gets offended, and then he goes, true. I kind of been thinking about that too. So he and I started the show now 12, 13 years ago. And we did it as a 1-hour show just for the VFW for about 3 years. And then Jerry retired, and then I took it over. We broke away from the VFW and then picked up another 23, 24 nonprofits, veteran nonprofits, Wounded Warrior Project, DAV. And I started, during that 3 years, a great training ground for me to meet these heroes. I mean, I didn't know, and I came to appreciate so much just about our active duty military and the veterans and their families, and to the point where I got so passionate about it because I would get these press releases. Nobody else is doing a nationally syndicated show for veterans. Right. Nobody. And I'd get these press releases from, Paralyzed Veterans of America that have some big, exciting thing. Well, everybody else in radio is throwing that in the trash.
Yeah, sure they are.
So we would get them on and talk to them and, really put the spotlight on them. And then the celebrity version came along, which was such a weird thing because I know when people first find out about, wait a minute, you're doing a veteran show with celebrities? That doesn't seem to, celebrities, especially like with a Tom Hanks, it's a great example. Nobody's going to ask Tom Hanks how he feels about the country. Nobody's going to ask Tom Hanks how patriotic he is. He has been, for the past 7 years, the chairman of the Elizabeth Dole Foundation for veteran caregivers called Hidden Heroes. Stephen Colbert's not going to ask him about that. So he comes on with me and gets to talk all about it. Here's what we were thinking when we made Band of Brothers. Here's how we wanted to get it right. We want, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And so it was a great outlet. I know the first time I had Tom Hanks on, we were doing just the hour show, the 1 hour show. It's 2 hours now, 2 hours a week. And and he came on, and we asked him one question, and he went for 45 minutes. I go, hey, Tom, love you, man, but we've only got a 1 hour show. He goes, am I talking too much? I said, nah, you're great. And
imagine stopping to, hey, Tom,
yeah,
can
right.
you shut up for a minute? I'll ask you a different question.
Yeah, exactly. But he was great. And that's why a lot of the celebrities, and they all have connections to a veteran or to the military that you never hear about, so it's a great place for them to.
Or it ends up becoming their charity of choice, because
right.
instead of,
yep.
okay, cancer wants me in the heart,
right.
wants me in this,
right.
I want to do, oh man, and then
so
you
many.
go, and then you can go tell other people, say, hey, look, I do a lot for the veterans. You got enough people doing what
right.
you're doing.
Right.
I want to do what I'm doing here. So
great example of that is the celebrity chef Robert Irvine, and Mark Wahlberg. So Mark Wahlberg goes to military bases unannounced a few times a year.
Yeah.
You never hear about that. Never hear about it. We talked to him a couple times at a military base, and can you imagine those people are going nuts?
Yeah, not only that, but he's there and he's feeling good about what he's doing too.
Right.
And he's talking about this other stuff. You get to find out what he's really like.
Right.
You don't
right
necessarily
exactly
see him in Shooter.
Yeah.
Okay, you
right.
see him doing all this other stuff.
Yeah.
For the veteran.
Yeah.
Because he's still doing Tunnel to Towers, I think.
Oh,
he's big.
yeah.
I see him
yeah.
all the time
right.
now. Yeah, he's going during the
Tunnel to
commercials,
Towers
yeah.
is a great
So
organization.
100 stations across the country and 400 internationally, right?
Yeah. So we got we're right over 300 in the U.S.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right over 300 in the U.S. and then Armed Forces Radio Network, which is on every military base, ship at sea. I knew nothing about Armed Forces Radio except Adrian Cronauer and Good Morning Vietnam.
Yeah,
that's the only thing. But man, when we landed a spot on Armed Forces Radio Network, oh, Frank,
Just took off.
Oh my gosh! It's like now you're credible.
Yeah.
Plus, you find a niche. Now you
Mm-hmm.
find another niche, which isn't as much the April Fool's jokes, but it's
Right.
really, it's got to make you feel good you're really doing something.
It makes. I always say this is the redemption part of my career.
This is it.
But I still get to do what I love. I get to have fun. I never got to interview those kind of celebrities on morning radio, and just make it my own thing, And then to have somebody on, we had a guy. It's a great story. So we had a guy on the other day. He was deployed 3 or 4 times. Got hit by an IED in Afghanistan. Got burned over 70% of his body, okay? He's a stand-up comedian. Can you believe that? This guy's a stand-up comedian. So I had him on, and I'm like, and he calls himself the well-done comic. I'm not kidding you.
Shouldn't laugh.
Oh, but no, he wants you to laugh. He wants you to laugh. That's the thing. And I'm I'm interviewing the guy. I'm like, I would not choose that as your first thing. And he goes, hey, you can either laugh about it or it can kill you.
Yeah,
and he's now a stand-up comedian, and he's very funny. Bobby Hendred, and just a funny guy. I said, so even with the shape you're in, Bobby, I said, obviously, he said, when I step on the stage, I got to explain what's happening immediately. He said, because, people know. Yeah.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Yeah. And he lost part of his one ear and part of another ear. Mm-hmm. And he said he was on stage one time. As soon as he stepped on stage and starts talking, a lady in the front row says, he's burned on his body. And he goes, lady, I can hear you. I've got a little bit of one ear left. But he's hysterical. Wow. And but those are the kind of stories that I love, that you never get to hear, about people that are so resilient. We work with Team Rubicon a lot. Team Rubicon is this great organization. They're in California right now. they've got 120,000 volunteers, all former active duty. And when there's a disaster, they send those people into the disaster areas to take care of. I mean, who better than somebody that served in the military, right? And that's just another great example of every day I talk to somebody who served 25 years in the military who can't wait to serve in some other organization. And it's not me.
Yeah.
You know, that's not my mentality.
Yeah.
So
It is your redemption tour, and it gives them hope. I mean,
Yeah.
it gives other people maybe a sign. You know what? If that guy did it, or he can do it, he can get up in front of an audience, burned over, it's a
Right,
body, his
right.
face is all messed up and whole thing. I better get out of this depression and go.
Well, it's
do
like-
something to try to help myself.
yeah, it's like I told that guy. I said, "Who's going to complain around you?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? I got something wrong with my foot. You're not going to say anything about that."
Well, now wait a minute. I'm not talking about my. I'm not going to go that far. Hey, listen. You have been everywhere. You've done everything. You're from Knoxville originally, and as we always tell people around here, there's just something about Kansas City. You reference it a little, but
yeah.
you being here is just another reason. There's just something about Kansas City, and
Yeah.
you staying here and doing the stuff you're doing.
Oh,
Proud of you.
I would. Well, thanks, Frank. Well, and you too, man. I mean, you know, we're the old school guys that still are doing it, and
Yeah.
you know, you just find a different way to do it, right? I mean, you've had so much success here in TV and radio and everything else. You fought your way through the Bogers. I mean, there's just so many.
We can tell that story too. That'll get some attention going.
Oh
There you are.
my
Yeah, there you are.
gosh!
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought Chad Boger had bought me an FM radio station.
I thought he did.
Apparently, it wasn't mine.
Well, see what you learn. You've stayed in the business long enough. Yeah.
No, I love Kansas City. I you know, and it's almost like you don't want to tell people about Kansas City. Now that you can work from anywhere, everybody's moving to Kansas City.
I know they are.
Wow.
Why the hell would you want to live in California?
Right.
Number one.
Or anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's
I know.
just
Well,
crazy.
and I mentioned to you, my older daughter
she's in LA.
lives in L.A. We just had our first grandchild.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Grandpa.
Gloria. She's 8 weeks old. We got to spend a lot of time with her, and it was so great. And do you know the Southern comedian Leanne Morgan? You know
Oh
her?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm interviewing Leanne Morgan before we go out to L.A. and I
Funny
told her,
lady.
Oh, she's hysterical. And I said, so I'm getting ready to meet my first granddaughter, and she goes, oh honey, you are going to meet the love of your life. And she was right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
It's
that's right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thanks. Don't forget prizes, pranks, and the purse lady. The Misadventures of Randy Miller Morning Show. They can get that at RandyMillerRadio.com.
Yeah, if you go to
right?
RandyMillerRadio.com,
Yeah.
and each book comes with a $50 gift card. No, it doesn't. Yeah, I can't.
It's not April 1st. Okay? Don't try to get me in trouble.
That's
now,
right.
Okay?
You know, even when I tried to do stuff nice, Frank, it backfired on me. Like one time we did something for National Reading Week. Okay? I'm trying to get kids invested in reading.
Okay.
So we went to a library in Shawnee Mission, a public library, and we actually hid $1,000 check in one of the books. Just to encourage people to read, and I mentioned it on the radio. Said this is the branch where it is, and
It's in a book.
It's in a book, and if you find it, and seems like that wasn't appreciated.
No, I wonder why.
I don't know.
They had a lot of checkouts that day.
A
A lot of checkouts that day.
lot of books on the floor that day too, for
Listen,
some reason. So.
God bless you, my friend.
Hey, thank you. God bless you,
Hey,
man.
thanks for spending time with us and continued success. You're
Thanks,
doing
Frank.
great, man.
Thanks,
We
man.
just love having you here.
This is great. Thank you
Because
so
there's something
much.
about Kansas City.
There is something about Kansas City. It might be the smell.
There's Just Something About Kansas City is a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization with the mission of documenting the stories that have built our city to inspire and educate generations to come. Our work is made possible by the generous support of local partners such as the Cockrell Family Foundation, the Bergman family, and the Sherman Family Foundation. For more information about how you can help us share these stories, visit our website at somethingaboutKC.org. Thank you.